Okay, thanks everybody for coming today. My name is Jay Carpenter, and I'm the founder of Desert Blockchain. And this is a citizen workshop. So we have 3 types of events associated with Desert Blockchain. Number 1 is the monthly session, which is on the last Wednesday of every month. Although in October it's going to be on the second to the last because of Halloween. But that's basically a general, usually 50 to 75 people down in the theater, and we go over topics of general interest. And we have presenters, like last month we had the Assistant Chief Information Officer of the City of Phoenix talking about smart cities. We had Oracle there, and we had Local Motors, and also a couple people from Ball2 Studios, which is one of the premier augmented reality and virtual reality studios in town. So that's our open to everybody. Just come in and sit and pretty much listen. We have a little bit of conversation. This is the second type of event. It's called a citizen workshop, and this is designed to do things kind of hands-on. Like today, we're going to be looking at the Nexus platform, their cryptocurrency. We're going to be going through a wallet demonstration and things like that. And then we'll also have an attorney and engineer talking to us in the last segment about governance, and he's going to be demonstrating a voting application, so using blockchain. So any questions before we just kind of go around the room? Oh, and the third type of event is quarterly. On the last Saturday of October, January, April, and July, we have the Arizona Blockathon, which is designed for developers and designers to get together and basically start to build a prototype using blockchain. So that'll happen on October the 27th. That is by invitation, so you have to know how to code. You have to have at least a year's worth of coding experience, know how to work with command lines, stuff like that. And anyway, but other than that requirement, it's pretty much open to anybody that has some technical skills, form teams, and they come up with some awesome projects in basically an afternoon. So that's the 3 types of Desert Blockchain events or related events. Arizona Blockathon is actually a separate entity, and Desert Blockchain just sort of helps promote that. So any questions before we continue? And I'm going to be doing a little bit of stuff over here as we go around the room and kind of introduce ourselves. This is all recorded, and it's on video on YouTube, but it's not listed. So you can access it if you've got the link, but you're not going to be able to search this. So because this is primarily for citizens. And we might open it up later on. So, any questions? Okay, cool. If you don't mind, go ahead. Yes?
What's a citizen?
So a citizen is somebody who wants to, well, basically you pay $10 a month through Patreon to be a citizen. And that opens up a set of benefits for you. So for example, we just opened up a once-a-day drawing for a citizen to be eligible for a full 3-day conference pass to the Nexus Conference that's coming up, which has a face value of $999. So basically, for $10 a month, you have a shot at getting a conference pass that most people are paying $1,000. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, we have these workshops, and as we build the workshops, the citizens will have basically first priority to attend the workshops. In addition to that, we're developing basically a hardware device that's using Raspberry Pis and other hardware that citizens will be able to get connectivity with other citizens via this hardware device. And so it's a program to kind of create a more committed member or participant in the desert blockchain community. And I'm pretty excited about it because I think we're going to be able to offer some really, really cool stuff. Hey, how are you? Welcome.
It's just a local community.
It's just a local community right now, but there's no reason it couldn't be open up to a global, if that makes sense. So, any other questions before we move on? Oh, the other thing is if you're a citizen, you get a link to these workshops. So Eileen's over there blasting out the link to this workshop, not only the live stream, which is a YouTube link, but also we might see some people that pop in on the Google Hangout. So if you're a citizen, you can actually join these workshops virtually, if that makes sense. So any other questions, comments, whatever? So if you haven't signed in, please sign in. Again, this is all videoed, and if you don't want to be recorded, then you might want to watch it on live stream. So, okay, cool. Do you mind, since you asked the first question, sir? Do you mind introducing yourself? And just let us know what you're interested in the blockchain space, because part of the opportunity here is for people to meet one another. We like to offer really solid content, but the biggest part of being here today, or one of the biggest parts, I think, is to meet other people that are interested, because we're interested in building this community in Phoenix and in Arizona, of people that know nothing about blockchain to people that are basically creating world-class platforms that are designed to run on a satellite constellation.
I'm just support. He's not building it.
Yeah. So I'll introduce Anastasia and Ryan in a minute. But like the monthly event, we specifically have an hour of networking before the 7 o'clock presentation down at the theater, so that people can connect with one another. This morning, I was looking at LinkedIn. And there's a woman who's an attorney who's really, really passionate about this space. And she was acknowledging somebody that I'm almost certain she met here. They've gotten acquainted and they're collaborating and so forth. And to me, it was really heartening to see two people that connected via Desert Blockchain and, working on something together. And I know that's happened over and over. So that's a big part of our intention. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So if you'll introduce yourself, what you're interested in, and what you're interested in getting out of today.
My name's Glenn. First got a little interested in 2014 when I heard about Bitcoin going to 1,000. I started investing when it dropped. And then last year, so it was just sort of on the back burner. Last year, I was very thankful early this year, really thankful. Went out, sold a little bit, bought some miners, got those running for a loss right now. And also Zcash, I've done a little bit in as far as mining. And but now I'm really interested. I'm looking to finish my second career. I'm ready to start a third career. And I want to see how, I really like the smart contract idea. So don't forget the investing part. That's got me interested to begin with, but now it's all about how I can use smart contracts in business.
And what was your career, Glenn?
First career was manufacturing operations, mostly in healthcare. Past 10 years, I've been in education. But the past 4 or 5 years in education, I've been doing nothing but data, as opposed to outside the actual teaching stuff. So, I'm thinking of diving into more of being a data scientist right now.
Cool. Very cool. And are you interested in the data surrounding blockchain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the decentralized, the whole idea behind that, and using smart contracts for the trust and the immutability.
Cool. Very cool. Awesome. Bob.
Well, my name is Bob Andreessen. I work for a software vendor, CA Technologies, and my interest in blockchain is that a lot of my customers are getting into blockchain. I just want to learn more about it so I can have an intelligent conversation.
Cool. And anything in particular you'd like to get out of today, Bob?
Just more hands-on experience, I guess.
Cool. Cool. Sir.
My name is Greg Daniel, and I have been in banking for the last 10, 11 years, and I'm currently working on a project to open a digital asset bank offshore, and really trying to get a handle on blockchain and the cryptocurrency side of that. I'd like to make some networking contacts.
Cool.
Do you better understand?
Do you hold any crypto now? Have you held crypto in the past?
The company that we're doing the digital asset bank for has provided us with crypto. Actually, they're getting ready to issue their ICO. It's the first cryptocurrency that's backed by gold.
Oh, interesting. Is that local or is it all over the place?
No, they're offshore. They're in Bermuda.
Very cool. Hey, Sebastian. How are you? Cool. Let's go to Sebastian. Well, we'll give you a chance to settle down. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Dennis. I work for Intel. I don't know if you can tell kind of wearing it. I'm an electrical engineer. I got interested in blockchain, specifically from the cryptocurrency aspect of it late last year when a lot of people did, and kind of watched the wild ride. But it's just the applications of it fascinate me, the whole distributed ledger and the potential international transactions that are very quick and cheap. And yeah, just the whole idea of having an alternative. So, and plus all the other cool applications like booking. So yeah, just this is my first Desert Blockchain event. I'm just I've attended a couple of other meetups. Yeah, just hoping to meet some people and learn some new things.
Cool. And do you know what Intel is up to in the blockchain space? Are you aware of what they're?
I feel like they're very cautious about it, so I don't know if there's really any active. I think there is. I heard there's some kind of blockchain alliance or something. Personally, what I do, I'm not really involved in that aspect, so I can't tell you too much. But I think they're looking at it from the position of encouraging the technology development, but not really actively getting in and throwing in resources. That's my understanding. But like I said, it's not really my area at Intel, so I don't really know a whole lot.
Cool. So I'm teaching a class here at University of Advancing Technology, and Sebastian over there is sitting in on some of the classes, although he's not officially in the class. But so we're building some basic blockchains on Raspberry Pis, and we'll network those together. But one of the things we want to do that I think would be very much along the lines of what Intel's interested in is we're interested in connecting IoT devices, Internet of Things devices, associated with blockchain, probably in the addressing area, and starting to tie devices like cameras, robots, sensors, all sorts of things together by looking at the blockchain as sort of like air traffic controller for all that stuff. And then we want to attack it, because some of the students here are in network security like Sebastian. And so part of our class this semester is to stand up some pretty simple blockchains, tie some devices together, and then have a red team, blue team competition. So, which leads me into Sebastian. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. As he's saying, I'm Sebastian. Yeah, I'm mostly in it for I am around the technology space. I was just at the Phoenix Linux Users Group one that was right down the hall. So I'm just around and I like meeting the people in the industry. So otherwise, I am in security. I do tend to do things that lean more towards helping stuff with privacy or Android system-based things. So otherwise, I think
Cool. All right. Renee?
Hello, I'm Renee, and I'm working on a couple of projects with Greg Daniel. A good friend of mine recommended your workshops on blockchain and decided that I'd probably attend some of the classes and get more exposure to the community.
Cool. Thank you. Yes.
Oh, all right. Hey, my name's Josh Madsen, and I recently started a company last week ago, coinsector.io. And, like a lot of you, a lot of others in the room, last year was really exciting, but as things kind of cooled off, there was like obvious room for, some new innovation. And so basically, I'm here to make some connections and see. I can't believe what a vibrant community, Arizona has specifically, like this region. And thank you, Jay, for hosting the events. And I actually just talked to somebody the other day. I'm over at Optima too, and I had no idea that there was a blockchain project like downstairs from me.
Yeah.
So, but basically, my company is it's a classification engine, and we track over 2,000 cryptocurrencies, digital assets, by economic sector. And so, kind of taking a page out of the S&P playbook for crypto and hoping to eventually spin off some, financial kind of products off of these macro trends that we're observing.
Cool. So we've got at least 2 startups in the room, right? Or relatively new initiatives. How can the community support you, what you're up to? What do you need?
Oh, hey, that's a really great question. Traffic feedback, how really the greatest help that we could get from the community is input in terms of how I, as a founder, can better serve the community. So, some feedback in terms of what's needed. And really, like, that was the whole impetus for building my company. When I was trading, there was just like, I felt like I was gambling. There was no like fundamental context for the underlying assets that I was swapping on the exchange. And I really wanted an easy way of referencing like the fundamentals. And I hear like successful institutional investors and like veterans say that there's no such thing as fundamentals in crypto. Well, that is such a like intellectually lazy way of looking at this space, because everyone in here knows how much effort and like brain power and resources go into these companies and these projects that are solving real problems. So if that's not fundamental, it's every bit as fundamental as a Procter & Gamble or whatever.
Good point. Thanks, Josh. Greg?
I think for me, we're in the process of ultimately laying a new blueprint for the cryptocurrency bank side of it, because there's really only 3 or 4 in the whole world that are actually up and running at this point. And so there's a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges. I'm working directly with literally government officials to make this happen, but we don't know what the pitfalls are as we're creating the blueprint to make this happen. So having experts in the industry, available to say, look, you can't go down this hole, it's gonna be a rabbit hole, don't go down that direction, go this way, or use this bridge and get to here because it's gonna be a much quicker solution to what you're gonna need. So, that type of advice or that type of experience, and because there's not a lot of experience in this industry, at least on the banking side, yet there may not be that much information, but at least from the technology side, that would be helpful.
Are you aware that we've had sessions with people, some of the staff from the Attorney General's office, and they're creating the FinTech Sandbox to give innovators like yourself a space to innovate and create things?
Here in the state?
Yeah.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
That'd be good to know.
So on August the 3rd, the state of Arizona opened up 2 things that you would be interested in. Number one is the Arizona FinTech Sandbox, which is for a very low fee of $500. You can submit a proposal to them and basically get a safe space where you can innovate without having to have a money transmission license. So yeah, so you could actually do experiments. You got to use Arizona residents, but you could actually try some things with some pretty high, limits, and you don't need a money transmission license.
What's the platform? Is it peer-to-peer?
It's whatever you want. It's just you make a proposal to the Attorney General's office, and they have 90 days to approve it or, suggest modifications. And if you get approved for the sandbox, you can operate a pilot program in Arizona without having to go through a money transmission license process, which is lengthy and expensive and onerous. And they also opened up an equity crowdfunding expansion, so you could raise up to $5 million from non-accredited investors, which is a big plus. So anyway, we've had sessions on that. We had a workshop or 2 on it, but I just mentioned it. And there's also collaboration with regulators in Washington, D.C., as well as in Israel, the United Kingdom. So there's a conversation in Arizona among the policymakers, which is what you were talking about, you wanted feedback from, about how do we create a viable path to move forward that allows the innovation, but also provides some consumer safeguards, which we need in this space, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, okay. One more, Summerlin, go ahead.
My name is Summerlin. I recently got involved in the blockchain in the past 6 months actually, because my dad is part of a company that is based in Guadalajara, Mexico, and they created a coin called XBB. And I'm recently coming out of a conference as well in Las Vegas called Chain Exchange, in which we had Steve Wozniak come and Common and a multitude of people come, which just really opened my mind to the applicability of blockchain and just cryptocurrency and AI. And I want to know and become more endowed with how to apply this to agriculture and water and reducing poverty and really just addressing all of our basic physiological needs. Because especially in Arizona, I see such an issue with poverty and with just lack of access to certain opportunities that I have. And I want that to be available to everyone. And when I see people like Steve Wozniak interested in incorporating it in Apple and it's so applicable way beyond I think what a lot of us realize. At least I'm surrounded by college students right now. I'm a senior at GCU, and there's not really a grasp on the potential of blockchains, and I want a greater understanding of that. So that's kind of why I'm here, and I'm really interested in all of your minds and perspectives because I know it's far greater than I have at the moment. So that's why I'm here.
Cool. And I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit before I do the next set of introductions and say that next week, and we're going to talk about this in depth, is the Nexus Conference, which is at the Phoenician. And a fellow from Africa who's doing some incredibly inspiring work, Dr. Charles Mully, will be there speaking. And they'll be showing his film on Wednesday night. And I don't know exactly how that ties into cryptocurrency and everything else, but this fellow was extremely successful in Africa, and he sold everything in order to basically devote his life to serving others, which is pretty cool. And he's going to be at the conference speaking. So that's a quick glimpse at the Nexus Conference, which is coming up next week. And on that, I'm going to introduce Anastasia and Brian Smith from Nexus. They're going to be talking about Nexus, what they're up to, really, really cool stuff, and doing a wallet demo and stuff like that. So, Anastasia.
Cool. So we went a little basic introductory for our presentation, but it's always good to remember the really important topics in blockchain that we go out there and we talk to other people who may not be familiar with this industry at all, and it's helpful for us to know the important points that we should hit when we talk to them. So we're from Nexus. Nexus is an advanced blockchain. It's also a cryptocurrency. We're also developing a satellite mesh and ground station network for communications to house an internet that is decentralized and distributed from the regular ISPs and the regular hardware that we have for internet infrastructure today. And then we are also developing a contract engine. So our mission is to provide a secure framework for people to inspire and create a better world through the connection of technology, education, and community. Combining innovative software and hardware, we aim to create opportunities that empower the voices of individuals, businesses, and humanitarian efforts for global prosperity. So why Nexus? Basically, we're a fast, secure, scalable, and censorship-free cryptocurrency. Basically, you have your banks, and banks hold and control your money, so they are the owners of everything that you hold in your bank accounts. They usually have expensive fees, really slow transaction times. Like if you send a wire internationally, it can take up to 7 or more days. They have very low interest rates for savings. They create currency inflation by printing an unlimited amount of fiat currencies, and they can freeze your account at any time for whatever reason. With Nexus, and with a lot of the cryptocurrencies, you hold and control your own money. You have faster transfer times, so our transfers go in within 50 seconds. You have low fees, and then we also have a staking platform where you can earn up to 3% annual interest on your holdings. And it's a censorship-free currency, so you can send it at any time, anywhere, all across the globe.
Could I interrupt you? Disclaimer time. None of this is an endorsement of Nexus or any other cryptocurrency, and whatever you put into cryptocurrency, be prepared to lose it all. This is not investment advice.
It's not financial advice.
It's not financial advice. It's purely informational. So,
Can we ask questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have to use your particular cryptocurrency in order to have the money controls or to move the money, or is it any type of, is it an exchange?
So for us, we're actually an entire blockchain. So we're basically like Bitcoin and some of the older ones. We were mined from the Genesis block. We never held an ICO or anything like that. So the blockchain is a closed system that holds Nexus currency on it. So you would use our blockchain when you're using our currency, which comes with a lot of benefits.
But it's only your currency though?
It's only our currency. I mean, we're like,
I think the answer to your question is that no. If you're a traditional blockchain technology like Bitcoin, Litecoin, and you run a wallet of your own, you have control over your own money. But that's similar to how we run with our wallet. We'll get into that.
Okay. The only reason I ask is that this looks like it could be a solution. So our solution, the issue that we're having is getting money moved from offshore to the States or wherever, because most of the correspondent banks generally won't move money that's been associated with any type of digital asset. So would that be a solution for?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of things that I'm gonna go over of how you can actually have Nexus and hold it and transfer it, et cetera.
One couple more questions, if you don't mind. Go ahead. Josh.
So, would you describe, and is it Nexus, or in the currency, is the currency actually Nexus Earth?
No, so Nexus Earth is like the kind of like full name. It's easier to search on Google.
Yeah.
But we just use Nexus for day-to-day stuff, and our ticker is NXS on the exchanges.
Well, a lot of digital assets have sort of like this bifurcation in terms of, you know, native technology and smart contracts and all that stuff, and then the currency component that's actively traded. Would you describe Nexus as a blockchain protocol infrastructure?
It's probably, well, when it's all built out, because we're a pretty long-term project, and we have like a really grand vision of all the things that we want to do. Like I said, there's like 4 main components to it.
Yeah.
Basically, at the end of the day, it's going to be a full platform with all of those things included in it. So you'll be able to use the currency to create escrow accounts on the contract platform. You'll be able to, you know, move Nexus through the satellite mesh system across the world for, you know, better connectivity. You'll just use it as a regular currency for day-to-day peer-to-peer transactions. And the blockchain is the infrastructure that's going to house all of this with its own benefits, like quantum resistance, et cetera.
Yeah.
We'll get it too.
So, do you have the ability to freeze an account at all? Because as far as I knew, the entire reason why it was made to begin with was in the event you lose, or someone obtains, I guess in this case, a key.
Yeah.
And you don't want them going into it. So, would you be able to freeze it? And if not, why would?
As long as you have your private keys, you own the currency on the blockchain. So as long as you have that, nobody can freeze it, nobody can, you know, steal it, et cetera. We have a lot of measurements in place that protect us from 51% attacks, and I'll go into that. We have like, well, Brian will go into it, but we have 3 different consensus channels, and then we're creating a 3-dimensional blockchain that's scalable and basically scales based on the number of nodes in the system and the number of users, along with the amount of transactions and resources that need to be used for the blockchain to run.
So not worried about it being a problem, I should say, in the same way that most banks would.
Yeah, in the same way that you can't freeze Bitcoin. So if I want to send you Bitcoin and we both have our private keys and we have both of our public addresses, nothing can stop it.
So is this just in the States, or you have to be
International.
It is international.
All blockchains are. I mean, different like
So you're
the legal
licensed.
entities or the teams that build the blockchains could possibly be stationed and headquartered in different places around the world, but the network itself is international because it can be run on any computer as long as you're connected to the internet. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go over a little bit about transactions on blockchain, and this is the basics. I was just kind of trying to break it down to the minimum amount of information I can give you that you can understand. But I'm going to use the analogy of like a Visa. So in the local area, people are spending money using their Visa cards all the time, and those will all get bundled together and processed. And that's basically, if you were to look here at block 1, those are the transactions that go in that create.
Do you want the
block.
laser pointer?
I got the mouse up there, but.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so basically you have all of your local transaction will get aggregated and processed for being put into a block. And in order for it to be a blockchain, you need to take this first one and use it to create your next one. And basically the way that works is it's a ledger. That's the whole point of blockchain technologies is for cryptocurrency is it's a distributed ledger versus Visa will be running through banks, which is not a distributed ledger, it's a private ledger. But basically the same exact process for making sure that your checks and balances add up as you go through. So there can't be any fraudulently created coins, there can't be any injection of coins that don't exist.
So it's your 3D blockchain. I mean, I understand it runs in parallel, but is that like for quantum resistance and stuff?
That's actually for increasing processing speeds, and that's what we're working on with our Tritium update. But basically with the 3D, it'll be this. You can see this is one SIG chain as it goes through. You have all your transactions that go in. That's layer 1 of the 3D. The second dimension will be having multiple of these and having like a cross reference that runs through them. And then the final one, which is the third dimension, is you get your whole block. It's just that's when you have your miners go in and actually compute everything. What that'll allow you to do is have tinier transactions along the way to add up. So you don't need to have a whole block confirmation or several block confirmations to purchase a packet of it. You need, one little transaction like that where it's not really, no one's buying a house, in the first layer. But as you get further down the scale, that's when you want more security, larger transactions. You can say, okay, I want to wait like seven blocks before I buy a house. So that's like the whole point of adding these other layers, just so that while you want to buy gum, someone else buying a motorcycle, they can actually happen in parallel and not have to worry about like the other guy over there waiting for everyone to add up all their gum purchases to make a block.
So, to put it in layman's terms, is there a debit card that goes with this?
Not yet.
Okay, so that's what you're working on, man.
There are currently a couple of options out there for other currencies that have a card, like BitPay, I think has one. That's the only one actually I really know of. But
So let's say I have Nexus and I want to send $10,000 somewhere. Does the receiver have to set up the wallet in order to receive my transfer?
So they would need to give you a public address. So that would mean that they have access to a wallet that's running. Now that could be an exchange, and they could be giving you a public address for you to deposit directly into, like, say, the Binance account.
But it doesn't need to be Nexus.
That would be Nexus only for Nexus.
Okay, so they need to have a Nexus wallet account.
Yeah, to run, so the way that different blockchains work is they each have their own specific cryptographic signatures, and they each have their own protocols for accepting coins. Nexus is its own protocol, its own blockchain. So you can't deposit Bitcoin into our wallet, and vice versa, you can't deposit Nexus into Bitcoin wallet. Just because they're so fundamentally different at this point.
So they have to set up, they have to go in and set up an actual wallet. Okay.
Do you think that the future holds one unified blockchain?
That is a really good question. I don't think that there's any reason to re-centralize something after decentralizing it. So my hope is that we don't end up with one. I hope we end up with a lot of really useful blockchains with specific use cases. Because when you take everything and say, all right, I'm a master of all, well, you're not. You're only going to do some of them well, and the rest of them are going to suffer. So there will always be specific use case blockchains. I think a lot of the ones that have popped up that have just been there for just the currency exchange aspect of it, they're not going to last very long. Unless they come up with a real use case, they're going to end up getting swept away. In my own opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. That makes sense. Thank you.
So this is just a little fun common crypto terms that we put together for anyone who's not familiar with them, because that's something that you're going to see a lot in the blockchain space. So the first one is HODL, which basically means hold on for dear life. And it talks about, using cryptocurrency as a saving mechanism and not panicking when prices fluctuate, because it's still a very early industry with a lot of volatility and risk involved in it. DYOR is one of the most important ones. No matter what I or Brian or anybody tells you about anything blockchain or cryptocurrency related, do your own research. Look at it to it, follow your intuition, look at the facts, look at the team, look at all of that information before you make any kind of financial decisions. FUD is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That usually comes out from different news that you might see, people on crypto Twitter talking about different things that are happening, kind of sharing their opinions, and you want to make sure that the information that you're getting is correct before you panic. Yes.
China does this a lot. When
Yes.
they say they're going to ban Bitcoin, And then the following month, after they've acquired a ton of Bitcoin, they come back and say, oh, we're not banking Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
so-
where you get they cause the fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yeah, and that makes the markets even more volatile. So just be careful with that. FOMO is a little bit of the opposite. It's the fear of missing out. So when prices in the market go up, people start to pay attention, and then they just, try to pour all of their money into it. And that's not, you're going to have a bad time if you do that. So you want to make sure that you're always, buying low and selling high, and not using your emotions when you get into this kind of stuff.
That's my mistake.
Right?
I didn't buy low and sell high.
Most basic of it all, right? Your ATH is your all-time high. So for all of the coins, that would be the highest price that you would see on a market since their inception. An altcoin is any coin that is not Bitcoin. So Nexus is classified as an altcoin. Your ICO is an initial coin offering, which is basically crowdfunding your project through, it's kind of like an IPO. Or the other part of that is blockchains that were created from their Genesis block, and the currency started to be mined through that blockchain process instead of just people pouring in and trying to buy the tokens. And a Satoshi is the smallest unit of Bitcoin. Also, another feature in blockchain cryptocurrencies that is used a lot are QR codes. So if you want to read the QR code to get to this glossary, it's actually really cool. There's like a lot more terms in there. You can always use the QR code, and QR codes are also used to show your different cryptocurrency addresses.
How much of Nexus, how many of the current coins, how much does Nexus own themselves?
We have an internal funding mechanism. I'm not particularly sure what the percentage is at the moment.
And are you on exchanges?
We are on exchanges, and that'll be in a couple more slides.
Okay.
Go ahead. So crypto security 101. This is the most important part in this industry. If you own your private keys, that means you actually own the coins. If you do not have your private keys, you do not own the coins. Doesn't matter what you're doing or where you are, you don't have it. So the first thing is you never want to leave your coins on an exchange. Exchanges function like banks, and they're the ones who own your private keys. So if you're keeping your coins on an exchange, you don't actually own them. You want to put them into a wallet that gives you the capability to save those private keys either on paper, in your head, or in some device that's off your computer. You cannot recover your private keys. If you lose them, they're gone. So you want to make sure that you have backups of your backups of your backups in different places. You want to back up your passphrase on paper. That's to access your wallets or login information on exchanges. So you want to back that up too and make sure that you're not saving it, in your Chrome browser or something.
Yeah, don't save it on your computer.
Yeah. You also want to make your passphrases difficult so that nobody can crack it. Blockchain started out with the cypherpunks and with a lot of, security hackers. Those guys can crack a password in 2 seconds, and you want to make sure that you have a very secure one. Never give anyone access to your private key. If somebody's asking you for your private key, don't trust them. It's a scam. And then don't enter the market with more than you can afford to lose. And that's just because this is still a very volatile and experimental industry. We don't know how these things will really turn out at the end. There's a lot of projects, a lot of teams, a lot of ICOs that will promise you the moon. And you want to make sure that you're doing this safely and not, putting yourself in a world of debt or any other kind of,
Key here is DYOR, do your own research.
Do your own research. So for storage options, there are basically 4 main ones. Your first one, and probably the most secure one, would be a laminated paper wallet. So most wallets have the capability where you can go in, you get your private keys, you print them out, you laminate them, and you put them in a safe, so that you're the only one who has them. The next one would be your hardware wallets. And some examples is Trezor, KeepKey, and Ledger Nano. Those are devices that are off your computer. They're kind of like little USBs, where that is what holds your private keys. So if you don't have that USB and you don't have your keys backed up somewhere on paper too, and like you lose it, you know, you want to make sure that you have all of that stuff. Hardware wallets are mostly used for long-term storage, so all of your big amounts of coins should be there. And for desktop and mobile wallets, they're kind of used as, you know, the cash that you have in your wallet every single day for your small transactions, or, you know, you're going to a blockchain conference and you want to buy things from people and they accept Nexus or Bitcoin. There you go, you have it in your phone. So as an analogy, the blockchain is your money vault. And to access your vault, you need your private keys, which for Nexus, it's a wallet.dat file in your wallet that you can take out, and you can also export those private keys if you need to. But that's your key thing that acts as a PIN. And then your wallet is like a personal online bank that lets you see what's in your vault. So that you use a passphrase to log in to view your account information. 2 things, private key and passphrase. And if you accidentally lose your passphrase to your wallet or your computer crashes and you still have that private key, you can just go onto a new computer, download that wallet, import those private keys, and you still have all of your coins. If you lose your private keys, you can't do that.
Just a quick check. For how many of you is this valuable information going over this? Yeah, yeah, I think so too.
And yeah, and this is the thing that you want to talk about when you first meet somebody who doesn't know about these things, because I feel like as the industry gets bigger and people get hyped up about prices and market values and, you know, new projects coming out on the scene, this kind of gets left behind. And so new people aren't aware of some of this information. You know, somebody's like, oh, I'm excited to, you know, give you Bitcoin or Nexus, and then you have no idea how to use it, and then you don't know that you need to back up your private keys, and then, you know, you're out of your money. So important to do through like your own education with people.
And honestly, this is something that even experienced professionals should probably get a refresher on every once in a while so they don't forget. Because if you do forget, you know, oh, I forgot to back up my wallet for the last 4 months and I had, you know, 4 months worth of interest sitting there and I didn't back it up, and then I lost my whole wallet. I lost my last 4 months of work that I did.
I did that the other day because I have a Linux computer and I accidentally updated it because I have no idea what I'm doing with Linux. And the guys were like, oh my God, I think you probably lost your wallet back that. And I was like, oh my God, no. It all worked out, but it's backed up on 3 different devices now.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go over the security protocol of Nexus. We have 3 consensus channels for our coin. This is actually different than most coins. Most of them actually only have 1 proof of work channel. Those are the ones that have come from just forking off of Bitcoin. But we have 3 different channels, 2 proof of work, one of which is your traditional hashing. The second one is a proof of primes. It's we're calculating dense prime clusters, and we're looking at the digits of thousands and thousands of digits at this point for calculating primes. And our third channel is a proof of stake channel, and that's where you can earn interest and also support the network by just hosting a wallet on your computer. Each of these channels is actually variable difficulty, so they do checks and balances on each other to kind of maintain the difficulty rating on each one to make sure that you can't get one runaway channel that just tries to block out the other 2. And they try and stay around 33% each. Usually I'll see them fluctuate a little bit as people come on and off the network for staking, or as we have people come on and off of our mining pools for creating coins. Also, we have a functionality built into our blockchain where we have time locks. So even if you wanted to perform a 51% or a 66.6% attack against Nexus, you only have 20 minutes to lock down 2 channels before we block you out automatically with our protocol. We have a SHA-3 quantum resistant blockchain. It's using Skyne and Kekek as our encryption algorithm. Kekek, I believe, won an award. It was #1 in 2012. And it's also considered the NSA's standard for encryption. And this is even more secure than that because we use a combination of the 2. I want to use an example to explain why I put the Bitcoin private key and Nexus private key up there. I want to use the example of a safe. Think of each individual digit on the on a key is you have to spin the dial to get to that one, or you can even have it be its own dial. So there's 256 dials on the front of the Bitcoin vault. And you have to get those 100% correct in order to get access to someone's coins on the blockchain network. Ours is more than twice as quantum resistant, with 571 bits that you have to guess randomly in order to get into someone's, and that's why we have the quantum resistance, because while quantum computers are good at guessing, they also are limited by the amount of computing power that they have.
Question. So you mentioned that you have 3 consensus channels. How is it different from the usual one for, say, Bitcoin, and how is it better, basically?
So for Bitcoin, only having one means that if they were to be, if someone were to come onto the network and be able to mine more of power, they'd be able to dictate who has blocks, who has coins, and who's going to be able to have coins going forward. The reason why a lot of coins went to 2 different channels, which was a proof of work and a proof of stake channel, was to kind of incentivize people to hold on to their coins, as well as it adds a layer of security. Because you have 2 different channels and you can set up rules around those channels, you can make it so that you can't have a certain number of blocks all come from one channel in a row. It makes the rest of the network have to balance out, which just adds a layer of, it protects you from the bad actors that are coming on.
So my knowledge of encryption, the reason why I most of the time wouldn't choose to have a larger key is because of how long it takes to get to what is encrypted with it. Is it not a significant difference with the size key? I don't actually know. Is it, or is it not?
The way the Skyne and Kekek work together, they kind of really play well together. So I don't believe it's that much more difficult if you have your private keys to get to the public side of it. But to reverse the encryption is always more difficult.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the whole point, though. You want it to be difficult, and the difficulty should go up. And
yes, you're right. It's just a matter of if it starts taking a while to get to my own stuff. I mean, I'd wait for better hardware, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah. You've got your private keys, so it shouldn't take you any longer than it does to get to the Bitcoin stuff. It would just take a lot longer to guess your private key.
Right.
Any more questions? Yeah, so how to get Nexus coins? Well, there's the traditional way, which is actually mining with your graphics processing, your central processing units, or joining a mining pool, which will use your local computer's graphic processing unit or CPU to contribute to doing the work on the network. This is actually the way I recommend most people get involved, because it's not too difficult to set up the software. Computers, I mean, you can get a decent sized computer that can handle at least a little bit. You can start to see some rewards after a little bit. This is not a get rich quick scheme. There's no like, oh, I started mining and now I have 1 million coins. Unless, you're on a bad chain, in which case it's not going to be worth anything. You're just wasting some time. Yeah, and then the second way would be to go through exchanges. So our coin has been being mined since 2014. There's about 59 million coins out there right now. And they're being exchanged on Paytrax, Binance, and Cryptopia. If anyone wants to know more about those, I can show you. I'm actually going to do a demo of buying a little bit of coin on Binance right today. And then staking. So once you have coins and put them in a wallet, you can earn interest on that at Nexus.
So who's doing the mining?
So there's a lot of people doing mining. It's all over the planet, and it's not
This is
something
off
that
regular computers?
Yep. There's like mining farms where people have set up a lot of GPUs and set them up in sequence, and they mine coins, which is calculating either the dense prime clusters or it's calculating the proof of work for the hashing.
So you are doing proof of work.
What's that?
You do proof of work.
There is a proof of work. Yeah, there's two different types of proof of work. There's proof of primes, which is our dense prime clustered channel, and then there's also the proof of primes one is actually really cool. It's giving a lot of details and data back to be able to use for scientific reasons, and we're calculating dense prime clusters. I think it's 7 in a row, or yeah. See, I didn't memorize all the numbers. It's all in our documentation.
And our project was very community driven at the beginning. So all of our miners were the first ones. Originally, Nexus was this coin called Coin Shield, and it was created to protect people from scams that were trying to basically take your Bitcoin and give you these coins that are, most of them are now defunct. Like one of them is Aurora, that nobody ever uses anymore. And so, like with that in mind, as the technology evolved, there was all these people who came there for the ideology of like protecting the community and building together and collaborating. So we have a big community in Poland. We have a bunch of miners across the United States, across Europe. I'm sure there's people mining in China and Korea too. We're like expanding to the Korean market as well with our educational stuff. So it's very, very community driven.
I guess I'm confused. Do you work off consensus then, or are you private and you guys decide if you're going to change something down the road?
It works off consensus, but for right now, we are still in development phases of building out our working groups to actually come to a consensus on changing our rules. Right now, the consensus is all the computing side of it needs to come to a consensus. So even us, if we were to go in and change our own rules, the whole network needs to adopt those new rules. Otherwise, we just shut ourselves down. We shut ourselves down. So it is a consensus-based system.
Thank you.
Gonna do step 1 here for an exchanges demo. I just want to show you how it works. Again, this is not investment advice. This is something I was just showing you for the informational side of it. So like we said, you want to make sure you have everything in 2FA. It's probably going to tell you.
And you always want to make sure that the website is correct, because one of the other things, you know, for security is to make sure that these websites are the correct ones, because there's a lot of phishing scams out there, and they can even like spoof the address and take you to Binance.io or something like that, and could take your, you know, information for that. And since the exchange owns your private key, there's like a little bit of leniency to that, because if the exchange is the one that's like, you know, holding your password, and you can redo your password and create a new password. But if somebody goes into your account and takes out all of those coins and moves them to a different wallet, then they're lost forever.
By the way, a little side note. So Binance, some guys went to a party last year, I think it was in March or April, and somebody suggested, gave somebody an idea. They left the party, worked on a white paper for like 24 hours, launched Binance. They had a little blip in the fall, and they raised like, I don't know, 20 million or so. They had a little blip in the fall, and they actually returned the ICO money. Last quarter or quarter before last, they made $200 million in less than a year. Binance.
And they're based in China, right?
They're based in China. This is one of the most amazing stories I have ever heard. And if you're interested in more, there was an interview on something called epicenter.tv of the founder, one of the key people of Binance. Not only is it a fascinating story regarding what can happen in this space, but I think the guy's name is, he goes by CZ or something. It's an amazing story on organizational design. He talks about how they only have groups of like 5 or 6 people, no more. They have autonomy in making organizational decisions. And they have basically created this global organization in a little bit over a year that's punching out about $200 million a quarter in profits.
Yes, well, their fees to list new coins are exuberant.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying it's all perfect or anything. I'm just saying that there are examples of people going from a white paper to phenomenal business activity in a very short period of time. And don't get me wrong, these people had a wealth of experience going into Binance. It wasn't like they just heard about crypto like at the beginning of the party, they're writing a white paper at the end of the party. But it's a fascinating story. I just wanted to mention that for those of you who haven't heard of Binance. So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. This is actually interesting. Yeah, so I just wanted to give you a little bit of a demo of how exchanges work. So this is a candlestick
Sebastian,
view.
you close the door.
Whenever you see a green versus a red one, a green one means that it opened low and closed high. A red one means it opened high and closed low. The shadows on either end mean that once an order starts being processed, it'll process all the way through, and then it'll even back out to where it's triggered. Yeah, so I just wanted to show you. I actually sold a little bit of Nexus this morning, so I could give you this demo. And I am getting 0.43 more than I sold. So let's see what we can do with 100%. So let's fail. Let me switch your balance. 50%. There we go. So it's really that simple. That's a market buy. There's different types of buys. I could wait for the price to drop if I wanted to. I could put in an order for a little less. Just toss them off there.
Brian, is Binance your platform or exchange of choice now?
I'm a little torn. I really like the Binance activity. There's a lot of there's a lot more volume that passes through it. But I also really like Bittrex for the fact that they've been one of our longest standing exchanges. And they've always been really, really good with their support. They are extremely quick to react when we ask them to update. And, they've never really given us any kind of guff or feedback that's bad. So
You are on Bittrex?
Yeah, we're on Bittrex as well.
Okay. That's why I asked before, because I didn't see you there. Okay.
Question. So for Binance, there's no fiat capabilities, right? You have to have Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency to be able to trade on it, right?
I'm not
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, that's correct. That's something that they're planning to incorporate, and so is Bittrex. But so right now, for a lot of coins, including Nexus, it's a two-step process. So you want to use an exchange that gives you, the capability to deposit fiat, so USD or whatever other currency, and then buy Bitcoin, and some of them have Ethereum on it. So the three big ones are Gemini, then you have Coinbase, and then you have Abra. And Abra is this really cool phone app that you literally, all it does is, you don't actually buy and sell on there, you just transfer your currencies to whatever other currencies you want. It includes all of the currencies across the world. You can do USD to Euro, or you can do Euro to Bitcoin, and all it does is just transfers that with the current currency rates. So those are the three main ones. And then once you have that and you have your Bitcoin, you want to transfer that to an exchange that holds whatever altcoin you want to get. For us, it's Binance, Bittrex, or Cryptopia. And then you actually sell your Bitcoin for that other coin that you want.
What is your preferred platform? Gemini, Coinbase, Abra?
I prefer Gemini. Abra's fees for me are a little too high, just an opinion. I prefer Gemini in general. There's been a lot of issues with Coinbase, and they're probably the first ones that are getting hit with a lot of regulations, like having to give up private data on people. And so.
More than anything, what annoys me is the fact that they have to hold your Bitcoin for 5 or 6 days.
So Gemini, it's you still have to go through the confirmation, but as soon as you deposit that money, you can trade it.
Okay, so the way it works is you deposit the fiat money first, and then
you can buy Bitcoin right away, and then it confirms on its own, and then so you can't You can't withdraw for however long,
Oh,
but you can absolutely trade as soon as that hits.
so there's also that limitation.
There's also local Bitcoins
Yes.
where you can broker, work out a deal with somebody locally and make the exchange, off record.
Those are a little sketchy too. You really want to find somebody who has a high trust level. Be prepared, be in a public place, and make sure it's not fed.
On site.
Yeah, that's, I've seen people walk into a restaurant. One person has a knapsack full of cash. The other person has a little piece of paper with something on it. They sit down, they might order something to eat. The knapsack goes from this side of the table to that side of the table, and then the piece of paper goes in the opposite direction. They're both usually armed, and they sit there for 10 or 15 minutes looking at their phones, and then they get up and they walk away. That is a scary deal.
So that's the more exciting transaction.
Yeah. And that's happening. That's probably happening right now as we're speaking. So, anyway.
This is just a chart just to kind of explain what the different parts of the candlestick chart are. And I also just want to reiterate DYOR, do your own research. I'll say it again and again. People need to look into the different ways of markets, like the patterns that they follow. Can't stress that enough. We're not giving financial advice, but if you're not going out and doing research on how markets, will follow certain patterns, then you're just walking into a Bitcoin transaction without a gun in it. So I had loaded up my wallet, loaded up a wallet just to kind of demo it. This is since we started. Looks like we've downloaded 21,000 blocks. So this is the QT wallet. This is our legacy wallet at this point. We're in the middle of a release of a newer, upgraded wallet, but all of the features that are here will be available in the new one, plus more. So yeah, you can send Nexus. This is a brand new wallet. I just literally set it up on here, so I don't really have anything in my address book. But yeah, you can send that. You can send Nexus. You can create addresses. You can create labels for them. That's going to receive.
So at the Nexus Conference this coming week, you'll be demonstrating your new wallet. Is that right?
Yes.
Will you have kind of a workshop format like this?
We're actually going to set up a booth so you guys can talk directly to the developers and they can walk you through everything. You can ask them questions. So yeah, we're going to demo it.
We're all getting tickets to that?
Yeah.
If you sign up as a Desert Blockchain citizen for $10 a month,
yeah.
you have a high probability of getting drawn for a full 3-day conference pass.
Since it's this Wednesday, yes.
Yeah, since it's this Wednesday.
We also do have a 50% off code specifically for
Desert Blockchain
members, and then we have some student codes as well for a much lower price.
Again, before we said to back up your wallet, I was just showing an example here. This is a backup. I just did a test backup. Even before it fully synchronizes, you can back it up. You can go through. You're going to want to encrypt it. So you can go through and create an encryption password. We've got plenty of pop-ups in here to let you know. So once you actually encrypt it, it'll restart the blockchain. So yeah, that's the wallet demo. Just wanted to show you, we have a working blockchain and our own wallets plural.
Awesome. Yeah, we just went through a big 2.5 upgrade on the back end for a new proof of work trust system. So the way that it used to work is you had your trust key and you would get rewarded for securing the network. And if you weren't online for was it, like if you didn't get a trust reward in 24 hours, like you got offline, and for whatever reason your computer was shut down, you would lose that trust and you would have to start back over. And you start with your 0.5% annual interest rate, and you can get all the way up to 3% annual interest rate on those holdings. So now with the new 2.5 release, it's a lot more fluid, and Brian can explain the details of that.
Yeah, so basically if you were to be online for 100 days, and if you've done that, you've built up a pretty good amount of interest, you're probably breaking over 1% at this point. The previous way it was set up, if you were to go offline for 24 hours, you lose it. It's gone. You've lost 100 days worth of work for getting your interest rate. But now with the new system, it's going to be, if you're offline for 24 hours, you get dinged for 3 days versus the entire amount. If you're offline for 2 days, it equals 6 days that you get dinged for. So instead of it being a death for parking tickets kind of situation, now we have more of a risk reward kind of thing where, okay, I'm a 5-year now. I've been staking for 5 years. I can actually go offline for a few days and not have to worry about it. I'm not even there.
Can you join pools to mine your?
Oh yeah, for mining,
Yeah.
you can. For staking, I don't think there are any staking pools yet. But that's a really good idea, to be honest.
I would assume the like Obsidian mining pool would do that.
Well, when you're staking, you're already kind of in the pool, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Because the reward gets broken up based on total amount of people that are staking.
What is the minimum number of coins that you have to stake, or is there?
There isn't exactly a minimum. There is a threshold of 1,000 coins that once you break over that, you got a better chance of getting an interest, or getting a trust key or Genesis block.
Which would be worth about, what, $800 now?
Genesis block?
No, 1,000 coins.
Oh, 1,000 coins. Yeah, it's a little over 800.
Yeah, a little over $800, just to give people an idea.
You can definitely stake with less. You'll have a little less luck with it, and probably a lot more time spent to get your first Genesis and then to get the trust transactions.
Now, do you guys work on hard wallets? Like Treasure or?
That's something that's in the works, but we don't have one yet. So we're
Because we're so different,
exploring that.
with our SHA-3, a lot of the hardware wallets are not set up to support SHA-3 yet. So we've been talking with them about whether or not they can. It's a matter of time though.
So some Nexus use cases for you guys. Kind of went over the ones that we have now and some ones that we will get later. So right now, Nexus is just a peer-to-peer cryptocurrency. You can pay others for goods and services. There are people in our community who have sold and bought cars for Nexus. You can trade on exchanges, which is the speculative option in the market. And then one of the big ones is your savings and earning that interest on your savings. With the trust system, what happens is the longer that you secure the network, so the more time and resources that you spend running your wallet, the more the network trusts you. And as we go through the Tritium upgrade, there's a couple of things built into it that's basically going to normalize the behavior of good acting nodes that all have consensus and agree to each other. So it's just like, when you hang out with your friends, you obviously trust your friends more the longer you know them and the longer you understand them. Same thing is going to happen to these nodes, so that when a bad actor comes into your group of friends, they're going to be like, no, you don't function like the rest of us. So the blockchain is going to basically reject any kind of those blocks or attacks. The other part that you can use Nexus for now is communication. So you can send quantum-resistant encrypted communications through the console command of signing a message with your address, so that the person that's receiving your message knows that it's coming from you. And then the thing that is in development now is our new smart contract engine. And so when that's all built out, we're going to have use cases for escrow contracts, for tokenized data, so you can, assign a hash to a work of art, a song, a logo, or domain name, patent, copyright, whatever content or digital content that you have that you want to protect and make sure that it's actually tied to your identity. So an example I like to use for that, say you're a Sundance, videographer and you're creating a movie for Sundance and you really love Shakira's new song and you want to use it. So right now through the legacy systems, you either have to, find her agent or, go through a bureaucratic process, and somehow be able to get in touch with her. You have to talk to lawyers to get any look at the contracts that she has. With the Nexus blockchain, she can have her signature chain, which is her identity. So you can look that up on the blockchain and find that, yes, this is totally Shakira. And then with the contract platform, you can go in and you can see her contract, and it says, hey, you can have the rights to my song for your movie for 10 Nexus. And so you execute that contract and you say, yes, I want to use the song for 5 Nexus. You send 5 Nexus to Shakira's personal, signature chain blockchain, and then you get the rights to that song and you can use it in your movie. So it's about giving power back to content creators that are actually producing the stuff instead of the labels and the marketing agencies and all of the other bureaucratic middlemen that are out there. Because really what blockchain does at the basic level is it's getting rid of all of the middlemen, which is banks, title insurance companies, etc. I also work for another company and we're putting title information for houses and just did a deal for an airplane title company to put it on the blockchain so that you have secure and authentic and accurate records for the ownership of your assets.
Is Nexus targeting the industries themselves?
We're looking at entertainment, we're looking at pharma, we're looking at voting, IoT, virtual reality, all those things. Basically, our goal is to create a really good, secure, scalable, because none of the blockchains at the moment can scale to the levels that we need to be able to, have the entire world access this technology. So we are doing a really foundational, fundamental, layer 1 scalable solution. And then everybody else who wants to build applications on top of it, create new companies, and use this blockchain with all of its features and do that.
So you can, as a bank, you can put all of the contracts or loan promissory notes and contracts on the blockchain system?
Yep. Once it's built out, so it's in development now, but yeah. So right now, the smart contracts platform that we have is Ethereum, which is not very scalable. We're seeing that really the biggest use cases for them is these ICOs. And then you have EOS, which, do your own research. I personally don't think that they're very secure, but those are the 2 options right now. So we're trying to create.
So when you say we have, you're talking about the entire global community. You're not talking about Nexus. Nexus is not, this is not a derivative of either Ethereum or EOS. You guys are creating your own comparable, like Ethereum virtual machine and so forth for smart contracting on the Nexus blockchain.
Yeah, a different platform with different features from the ones that Ethereum or EOS offer at the moment. I believe that those are really the main platforms that
You're a
have
contract
capabilities.
You use like JavaScript, like Ethereum?
So one of the main upgrades with this new Tritium protocol is that you don't have to use Solidity or anything like that, because all of the different software layers are decoupled. Your developers can use whatever language they want to build the APIs and to build the dApps, et cetera, and the contracts. And then one other use case would be supply chains. So that's when we get kind of a little bit into the Internet of Things and, looking at everything from raw resources to the distribution path to, your big stores where you serve your customers with specific products. And you can use these contract engines to trace the history of a product and then provide trustworthy information about the standards and certificates. Of course, there are long-term plans as the world adopts this technology and you start really seeing it work between peers and between companies, et cetera. So the Nexus Conference, we touched upon it a little bit. It's happening September 19th to the 22nd at the Phoenician Resort. You guys can check out the website, thenexusconference.com, and you can buy a ticket on Eventbrite with this promo code, or as Jay mentioned, enter the drawing to win it, or also I can give you guys a student code for those who are studying this stuff. So the Nexus Conference is going to include a Blockchain 101 course that Jay will be teaching with another professor, Dan Conway from South Florida University. So that's going to be a 3 hour seminar on Wednesday at noon. And then we're gonna have a bunch of keynote speakers. For Thursday, we are talking all about space and all of the satellite and rocket capabilities that we're working with for the communication network, as well as getting really deep into our technology. There's going to be some ex-Cisco fellows that are going to come in and talk about the LISP protocol, which is something that's helping our blockchain scale on the network level. So we're getting really deep down into our architecture to make sure that all of the messages and transactions and information that we send is fast and reliable and extra secure. And and then we have a bunch of really great keynote speakers that are speaking then too. For Friday, it's going to be based a lot around cryptocurrency, financial panel that's coming in to talk about that aspect. And then we are introducing our first ever Nexus working groups, where you can actually get into the development process and design, standardized API applications for different industries, meet with businesses who want to build on our blockchain and kind of figure out and design how exactly we want this to function. Because we're a community-based project, we want the community's input on what do you guys need, what do you guys want. We can't do everything, so we want everybody involved to let us know what is important for them and for their customers and for them as individuals and their families to be able to use this technology in an easy, user-friendly way.
And the Friday afternoon, is that on the schedule? Is that the working group breakouts?
Yep.
So those really aren't hack sessions. Those are more like people getting together to get involved in various working groups.
So we're kind of using the IETF model for working groups of how those guys created.
It's the Internet Engineering Task Force.
Yeah, and they're the ones who originally standardized a lot of the protocols and a lot of the operational codes that we use on the internet today. So we're taking that model and we're applying it to this technology because, again, it's that foundational layer one solution for a lot of the things that other blockchains aren't either able to solve or haven't figured it out yet, or doing two layers, second layer solutions, like the Lightning Network for Bitcoin is a second layer solution. So how do we get away from these extra processes that might lower the security of the blockchain and really bring it down to that first basic level so the blockchain isn't broken up like that?
So I'd also like to say that one of the things I'm really excited about Nexus is their space-centric approach to this whole thing. So not only are you talking about and intending to run your blockchain on a constellation of satellites, but the founder of Nexus is a fellow named Colin Cantrell, and his father, Jim Cantrell, who's going to be speaking, is the head of a company down in Tucson by the name of Vector that is making or launching a constellation of microsatellites to do all sorts of cool things, including this. And Jim Cantrell was one of the initial people involved with SpaceX with Elon Musk. So we have, with the combination of Nexus and with the combination of Vector and what ASU's up to and UAT and some surprises, we have, and blockchain here locally, we have the makings of a really, really powerful combination of tool sets and community here to not only do some phenomenal things with cryptocurrency and blockchain and supply chains and all this other stuff, but also to basically do it pretty much anywhere at any time. I don't want to say the entire universe, but at least within our solar system. So
we'll start with Earth.
Yeah. So this is really an opportunity to go to this conference next week and be able to meet some of these people that are actually creating this stuff. So that's my 2 cents.
And I promise, last question.
Wow, go ahead.
Where's your funding? I mean, it sounds, you got some pretty ambitious plans. I mean,
it comes from every block that's mined. So
but don't you have, you must have some seed funding.
No.
There's no seed funding, there was no investment. It's actually all based off of the current market rate of the currency, and what we have is a built-in funding mechanism, where a portion of each block that's mined goes into an account that we use to fund our development.
So you guys are getting paid in Nexus?
Yeah, I take some percentage of that.
But you're getting some cash.
Yes, the cash too, yeah.
So where did that come from?
So let me answer this because I think it was maybe January or February of 2017, or maybe it was late 2016, a little over a year ago. I was in a pizza shop at the blockchain meetup, which is another meetup like Desert Blockchain, and Colin Cantrell is there doing a little demo of this Nexus thing, and I think they had a market cap of maybe $700,000-800,000. And the next thing you know, mid last year, I look and the market cap's up to like 400 million or something like that, something crazy. It's right around 50 million now. But suffice it to say, one of the phenomenons out of this whole space, be it Ethereum or Dash or Nexus or whatever, is all of a sudden there's this whole new realm of funding. Doesn't involve VCs. It doesn't involve angel investors. It doesn't involve any of that. It's this, all of a sudden, not only do you have a whole new realm to create technology and business models and policy, but you've got a whole new realm of funding mechanisms. So, and again, I'm not endorsing or advocating any of those things. I'm just saying we are in the center of revolutions that are happening in many dimensions. And the traditional funding mechanism of VCs and stuff like that, that's on the table for disruption as well, if that makes sense. And Nexus is a prime example of how that can work.
From like a big high overview, we're literally transferring a debt-based, government-controlled fiat monetary system into a prosperity-based monetary system. And all these different projects, like one of the first things that you do is you either cap or limit the amount of coins that can go into creation. So Bitcoin has the top of 21 million. We have in our first initial 10 years is 78 or 87. I always mess those two up. And then after that, you have like a very small inflationary rate where people can still stake and secure the network. And there's some, you still have your mining operations as well. So you get a little bit of coin creation after that that's also capped. So you don't have these crazy debt-based systems where governments are literally printing money out of nowhere and then loaning out that money to banks and to individuals and to businesses, and then getting them in the cycle where they can never pay it back because it's based off of the future value of your labor and your work and your contribution to society. So you can never spend a negative amount of Bitcoin. Sure, you can do like peer-to-peer loans, and you can still take on that risk, but you can't send negative Bitcoins anywhere. You can't send negative Nexus coins anywhere either. So it's transferring those systems to work the way that they're supposed to work to make us all more prosperous instead of continuously reducing our value.
What other questions? Go ahead.
You mentioned satellites. What is the reason for satellites as opposed to ground?
I can take this.
Go for it.
Yeah. So, for example, you know that the internet right now is basically broadcast over giant cables that run across the entire ocean, right? Mm-hmm. So to lay down one of those costs about $500 million, and that's a number from 2006. So they're really, really expensive, and they are constantly being, cut, burned, to break through the volcanic ring. I mean, it's literally just all the different things that could possibly happen to these cables, and they cost that much to run. There's specialized equipment, there's man hours to do it, like all of that. And so for $500 million, you could put up 1,000 of these mesh satellite network satellites, meaning global coverage. So for the cost of one cable, you got global coverage for the internet.
But isn't the reason they use cables is that their transmission properties effectively the internet speed that you get out of, and you get the same amount of satellites?
We're still looking into the exact frequencies we're going to use, but yes, you should be able to get it out of low Earth orbit satellites, not something that can be like geostationary. While we might eventually add geostationary satellites to the network, we're starting off with low Earth orbit. And the reason for that being, they actually will automatically come out of the sky after about 5 years, so we don't have to continue to maintain like old stuff. It'll be easy to say, okay, every 5 years we'll put more and more satellites up, better and better technology, and we don't have to work with our older version 1, version 2 kind of stuff in like 5 to 10 years.
So, and that's a big thing from privatizing the space industry. So that's something that Jim Cantrell is really working on. Instead of putting out these, gigantic rockets that cost millions of dollars, or these, gigantic satellites in the geosphere. You create smaller ones. You can actually get a kit sent to your home to put together your own satellite. Probably none of us in this room have experience to do that, but you could. And the U ones are like 10 by 10 centimeters big. It's just this little cube, and they cost anywhere from $20,000 up to $100,000. And the point of creating this satellite mesh network is for all of the people to get involved. So individuals can buy them, businesses can invest in them, other blockchain projects can put them up, and we can all work together to create these kinds of mesh networks. Now, in the future, we could have 3D printing that lowers costs of these satellites and rockets even more. And that's something that's going to be really interesting to watch in the private space industry.
And we have some premier satellite companies right here in Arizona, including like Orbital, which is a new name, but and some of their engineers are active in the community. I went to an event at a place called Heat Sink Labs in Mesa, and one of the Orbital engineers was there talking about radio frequency and something called AMSAT, which is an amateur satellite constellation that pretty much anybody can participate in. So there's some really, really cool stuff going on in town.
Yeah, I'm originally from Philly, and right before I was leaving, when I got into Nexus, I found out about the Philly Mesh, and they're basically like a group of people who are creating these ground networks for the internet. So somebody still has to be attached to their Comcast or whatever ISP provider that you have in your region, but then everybody else can connect to their little ground station, and they can have these internet constellations on the ground between them. So a lot of really cool projects working on it in the blockchain space and outside of it that we can collaborate with and come together and try these things out and do it for the world, so that people in third world countries can get access to the same kind of information that we have, the same kind of tools that we have, the same kind of financial capabilities that we have. And that's really the big mission there, is that humanitarian of providing these things for people who have never had access to them before.
Yeah, and the folks here at University of Advancing Technology are experimenting with and putting up projects that are satellite-based or approaching satellite-based using weather balloons and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons that I'm excited to be here, is because of their interest in the satellite realm and so forth. Any questions, comments? Would you like to take like a 5 or 10 minute break and then come back, and I'll talk a little bit about the citizen program and show you how you can be drawn for a free 3-day conference ticket to the Nexus Conference. And then at 4 o'clock, we're going to have Jason come in and talk about governance, and he's going to demo a voting system on the blockchain as well. So, yes.
If you get a chance to sign in, if you could, just put yourself in front of Name and email, please.
Yes, say if you could show how to actually find the name, because you put a hash number, since I don't understand it.
A hash number?
Yeah, whenever you put the draw number.
Oh, yeah. I'll go over that when I talk about the whole program, because you're not seeing the whole thing yet.
Oh, okay.
And I recognize that it's not very clear. So anyway. So any questions, comments, so forth?
I have one more plug, and that's the GitHub link up there. We are open source, so you can go and take a look at our code.
And join our community. And if you want to get like more into the older community, the guys who really started the project and do a lot of the mining and the development and working with the open source code, I can also direct you to a Slack channel too. But the Telegram is really one for kind of people who are just getting into the community and want to learn more about Nexus. Cool. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so why don't we take let's just make it a 5-minute break. Probably turn into 7 or 8 minutes. So why don't we come back at 3:45? The bathrooms are down the hall. If you want to get a drink, you can go downstairs in the cafeteria and get one of these cups. I think they still have their fountain open. And then let's reconvene. I'll talk a little bit about the citizen program. And then at 4 o'clock, we'll have Jason talking about governance and voting using the blockchain. Okay?
You have a message from the girl that says you have to
Yeah, really good products. It's awesome. It's exciting.
Yeah. Just wait, and the brand new interface thing that we're building out, it's a game changer.
All right.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I mean, regardless, the one that you showed today, so familiar with the Bitcoin core.
Yeah, you go to Patreon. Patreon has a blockchain.
You're gonna see Bitcoin and everyone $12 a copy because it's that.
It's $10 a month.
And that's actually part of what we want. Because why are they using these, third party, there's a huge difference between distributed networks and decentralized networks. And like the network is decentralized.
Yeah, that's good. It's really good.
This sounds great.
Sort of transaction there with the channels.
So
Like, why is that? Why, like, the original blockchain was,
Yeah,
didn't
that's-
really want to.
The satellites. No, not yet. That's still in yeah, we need to do more research into where we're even sitting that.
So many guys do
Yeah, yes.
new asset class.
Yeah, that would be just really.
And,
I know things that have made that kind of oversight, so.
Yeah, for instance, I was just at the Internet
Actually, when
Engineering
I first
Task
got into
Force.
I was very
Just,
curious to see the projects that were
But,
synced, so all of the identity.
Yeah,
civic,
I was talking to all the old guys,
all
older
of
guys
the
about how
ways
the internet was designed and some of the flaws that it had.
Yeah, do you have a card?
One of some of the really funny ones, we're re-experiencing that. It's because of blockchain.
You to check out our Nexus.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
classified currently as blockchain.
So your satellites be
technology
separate
from, roll this stuff out, make sure we're blockchain
Yes,
platform.
well, they'll be practically separate, they'll still be bridges, because we still want to, we still want to be able to use the existing network, but we're building a whole secondary option for the network, just to create failover.
What about regulation and all that?
Working on it, working on all of it. We've already started the process on it.
Who do you go through?
It's all in, there's a specific government agency agency
big
controls
companies
all
and so
specs
forth.
for the internet on. So yeah, we're talking with them.
Yeah. How long have you been there?
I've been working at Nexus. I've been programming for the last year. It's great. The group of people we get to work with on day to day.
Yeah, it really boys think about it.
I didn't even know there was a place like that in Valley.
Yeah,
Are there other blockchains?
Yeah, there's another one, Dash. Dash is here.
Oh, I guess I've heard that, because they're working with these.
How did you like
Yeah,
it?
Louise.
Oh my god.
Go to Anthony's Cave?
Yeah, they like gave them a bunch of money or something too.
Thank you.
Oh,
Makes
the
sense
islands
to
of
set up some kind of.
They have a little bit more than we do.
So, but
They have performed, or think they have a future?
I think they do. We'll see though. I mean, I don't want to say anyone doesn't have a future. Because that's like, I don't know, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot because then they turn around and say, don't have a future. They don't see it.
party slash network.
Well,
Because it was like half work and half play.
I mean,
You know,
yeah.
but that's kind of
People
like.
were, work AOL.
Yeah, I know.
Doing the internet.
So it's fun. If you know, 2 weeks, big club.
There's Alta Vista, the search company, I mean, they all blew
I
it.
was like, I don't know, I was like, I wanna go. She says, hey, I'll get you in the front.
Alta Vista blew it, Yahoo blew it.
Yeah, when they were there for.
Yahoo was there first, yeah. Completely missed out. And I actually like saying Yahoo more than
He
Google.
also sells those like.
Yeah, yeah.
Coins that are private keys in them, public keys.
Do you know where it came from?
Yeah, I've seen that.
The word?
They had like a whole operation.
Okay, as a kid, you looked all over travel.
And there was some guy that.
Okay, it came from that novel.
Does monthly
Okay,
events
but,
for, like,
wow, he just talked
people
about the
on wall
book,
that just
I've
do
never
things
probably
like
read the actual book. So there's 4 stories to it,
You know,
okay,
our
and
plan
with
for this
movies
was,
and
like,
stuff, like the
charity
first one,
and just
was
does these
where he's
things
really
like
small and
together.
he's really big.
You know.
No, Fourth World is a island where the horses want to, okay? And they call humans y'all.
I remember that. Yeah, okay. I think I did have to read that one first.
Okay, yeah. So, as far as I know, that's the first time human internet. But that was a derogatory term.
So,
That was one of the first movies that introduced me to books, really, that
you know,
just
very
did satire.
spiritual,
Yeah.
like.
Oh, no, that's, yeah, it's not in that sense. Swift, yeah, modern.
So
You know
he
that?
just like, he's building this.
Really?
chain
Oh, you gotta
based
read
off
that.
of nature. So all of
It's
the
a short
algorithms
story,
that
Modest
we use
Proposals by Jonathan Swift.
Okay.
It's about harvesting babies to cure all of society's ills.
Which is not far off from something we do.
Yeah, but the idea was to take the babies from the poor people and cook them for the rich people. And that they taste delicious, the rich people will pay, people in poverty will get the money from harvesting their babies for the rich people. And he lays it out
So like,
so logical, okay, that it just makes total sense and you don't know until like the,
it kind of.
you know,
like-
2/3 of the
it's
way
delicious,
or
but
half the way in, that he's talking about human
So
babies.
he, yeah,
Oh,
he
God.
uses all these things that happen in nature and. people
Talk about
lives.
that.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get restarted because hopefully Jason will be here. Yeah, thank you so much. Did that go okay?
Yeah, it was.
Fine, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah.
We will see
I will see you
Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
I will see everyone next time I see you.
Okay.
If you have no questions.
Have fun.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for being here.
Yeah, you have any business card? Yes, so. I lost another one.
All right.
Let me go to the office again. No, you're good, sorry.
Good. Thanks. All right,
And you can find me through all of the community channels too. Sweet, thank you.
thanks. So. Are you Ryan? Yes, sir. Good to see you. I thought that was you. So I'm happy to introduce the most recent citizen draw
Oh, really? I was?
Yeah, didn't you get my email this morning?
Oh, no, I haven't signed into it
Yeah, yeah.
today.
Yeah,
I had my first appointment at 5 a.m. and I've been going since.
Oh, so Ryan is a Desert Blockchain citizen,
So cool.
and he just was drawn as of today to receive a full Nexus 3-day conference pass, which I'm going to talk about right now.
The really cool thing about that is when you said you have a very good chance of winning because there's not very many. I didn't realize there was literally 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yes. So if you just go do it for $10 a month, you skip the $999 it costs too.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't win, you can sign up for 50%. So anyway, so something's emerged out of this this conference that I hadn't really anticipated, but I'm looking for ways to enhance the benefits for Desert Blockchain citizens. And I started working with Nexus, and they said, hey, we'll give you we would like you to spread the word about this, and we'll allow you some basically free passes for the full 3-day pass, which has a list price of $999. And so I thought, well, okay, so how am I gonna distribute these? And I thought, aha, we can do a drawing using a blockchain. And then it was like, okay, and I was thinking about the Ethereum or Bitcoin blockchain, and then I thought, well, why not use the Nexus blockchain? So anyway, the long and short of it is there's this whole new realm that's bubbled up out of this that's still kind of under development, but suffice it to say that it's coming together really well. And this method of selecting someone or a set of someone's out of a community has emerged using a blockchain and then using some hashing of an identifier for that particular person. So let me just kind of step through this, and Ryan has mentioned to me that, hey Jay, this isn't very clear, and it's not very clear just yet, but it will be clear as to how this works. But this is going to go beyond the Nexus Conference tickets. So as a Desert Blockchain citizen, we'll continue to have drawings for various things like additional conferences, like like a month's time in a co-working space, or courses, online, in person, so forth. And we'll use blockchains, maybe a set of blockchains in order to do this. So let me kind of quickly step through the presentation. And by the way, I'm sending out a link to these presentations each day, and each link in presentation is a modification of the day before. So.
Do you want to move your camera though, because you're still at an oblique
Oh,
angle on
yeah.
that. Yeah. I can read drawing results and that's all.
Well, I want to look up the definition of oblique, frankly. So is that a little better? And by the way, for those of you that don't know Eileen, I'd like to introduce her. She helps with the social media at the Desert Blockchain events, and she's also really involved with like the Arizona SciTech Festival and
Yeah, kickoff comes up next month.
what used to be called Comic-Con.
Yeah, so who knows what their latest stuff is. But we did a panel on Blade Runner and blockchain. So that was fun.
And she's also involved with youth and education activities. And I'm really grateful that she helps out with some of the.
And there's more developments on blockchain and WordPress, and there's a whole session on it at WordCamp Los Angeles coming up next weekend, so I'll be there.
Cool.
I'll report back. Yeah, you've got the full screen now.
Okay, good, thanks. So basically, this is just a little informational, how to get drawn for a free ticket to the Nexus Conference, $9.99, and again, this will be expanded to include other things. And then this is just a little video on the Nexus Conference. If you're a Desert Blockchain member on Meetup, you get a link to all this stuff like on a daily basis. Each day there's a feature of a different speaker. This lady is a marketing expert, but some of the other people that have been featured, like, some of the tops in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. But this is what I really wanted to show you. This is actually a snapshot of the Nexus blockchain, and it is, or a snapshot of a block on the Nexus blockchain. And this is showing a particular block that was mined as close to noon Arizona time as possible. And so it's a little hard to see on the screen right now, but there's a timestamp about 4 or 5 rows down, and that will always be as close to 1900 hours as possible, which is noon Arizona time. And that basically selects the block from the Nexus blockchain. And then that hash, that long thing on the top that goes all the way around, that's the SHA-3 hash that Brian Smith was talking about. And they're cryptographically kind of unique to the, not totally unique, but their particular version of hashing the blocks. If you scroll all the way to the end, the last 5 characters of that hash determines who out of the Desert Blockchain citizens will get drawn for the 3-day pass. So this is the final 5 hash characters of that block hash that was selected at noon yesterday for people that were on Desert Blockchain citizens on Thursday. So the cutoff time is midnight on a particular day, and then the following day, the noon hash is what determines who gets the drawn for the item from the prior day. And then I take those last 5 characters and create a hex version of those characters, which is highlighted in blue down at the bottom. Take those, total them up, and then match it to a hex conversion of the hash for the citizen identifier. And what's not clear yet is how is this hash determined? I'll be,
That's actually like kind of related, like a letter, and you're like, maybe he's adding like a numerology thing, maybe he's doing like a.
That's true. It's divined out of a kind of a sorcerer. Actually creates the name, but yeah, I will reveal probably in about a week or so how the name. Basically, I took your name plus some added information, and I put that into a hashing function, which is that blockchain 101. And then I do it uniformly for everybody's got the same information. I'll disclose that pretty soon. But anyway, it's combining the hex value, the last 5 characters of a blockchain block hash, to the last 5 characters of a particularly defined citizen name that's then hashed, and that is what determines, that's a little video on, that's where you can sign up for the drawing to become a citizen. And then here's the promo code for the 50% if you just want to register for a particular day or whatever. And there's my contact information. But this comparing the hash of an identifier for a citizen to the hash of a particular block what it's opened up is much more than just allocating benefits. There's some dimensions to this that I'll share with everybody as this goes on, but I'm optimistic that this could be applied to open source development and some other really cool applications that have been difficult projects or difficult tasks to do prior to this. So anyway, any questions about all that? Oh, and the other thing is, if there happens to be a tie between two or more citizens, we'll look at the registration date that people became citizens, and whoever has been the citizen the longest will be the one drawn. So, any questions about all that? Another key to mention is that if you're drawn and if you can't make the conference, then you can donate your ticket to a student or a startup. So we'll have the ability for people to be drawn that are citizens, and then they can direct that benefit to students or startups or whatever. And we'll also have a selection process. So, maybe you want to do an online course or an in-person course instead of go to a conference or get co-working space. There's Jason. So again, let me direct him in.
Congratulations.
And you did your presentation online or that's not how we're just plugging into HDMI. I don't know. Yeah, that's the problem. I don't have HDMI. Well, let's try this. This is a projector. It is romantic. It's next month we'll have candlelight. It's right here. So let me introduce you. So this is Jason Hanania, and Jason is an attorney as well as an engineer, and he's been interested in the blockchain space for some time. He's written a book on governance.
You guys have been here for 2 hours?
We have been here for 2 hours. It's been pretty good.
We can compress it.
Awesome.
Is this the enchiladas crowd or is that rumor?
That's rumor. Let's see. There we go. Bingo. The presentation gods are with us. So, Jason, I'll let you take it from here, and he's going to talk about governance and some cool stuff, and then do a demo on voting on the blockchain.
All right. So the so the current 1% system, where government power is centralized in less than 1% of the population, has become unsustainable. At the same time, we now have transformational technologies like the internet, mobile devices, and blockchain, which have the ability to decentralize government power from 1% of the population to 100% of the population. We want to see these technologies reach their full potential.
Oh,
we all need
excuse
to
me.
understand.
I'm sorry. You didn't want this recorded, correct?
Yeah, preferably. It's just so people can speak freely because it involves, First Amendment.
Okay.
I just got your definition. That's
I don't,
something I'm
no
saying.
worries.
Yeah.
So,
It's not life threatening. There's nothing classified, right?
yeah.
It's just so people can talk because it's issues that.
So do you want to go ahead and go through your presentation? I'll record it, and then when we open it up for questions, or do you want to just?
I will leave it off.
Okay.
Just for the
Okay.
additional, anyone can say what they want.
Cool.
People can ask questions and add comments at any time.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay. So for anybody watching the recording or watching online, we're going to say goodbye, and thank you for joining us today. Goodbye.
So.